Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the Extra Mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now, your host, Jaxs and Mummy, owner of the Celebration Bar Review.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. This is episode 115, and my name is Jaxs and Mummy. I'm glad to be with you today. We're on the other side of Hurricane Matthew here in the Central Florida area. I just want to say we certainly got through it without any difficulty, but we know that there's been tremendous devastation and destruction all along the east coast of Florida and now up into South Carolina and Georgia. And just want to offer our thoughts and prayers and best wishes for the people going through that. Sarah and I have been through a lot of hurricanes, not limited to Hurricane Andrew in Florida and Hurricane Katrina in the Gulf Coast. So we clearly understand the enormous devastation and impact that can occur. And we know how tough that can be. So really wishing the very best for all of you. In today's episode, we're going to be doing a hangout with a successful bar taker from Florida, Kelly Perkins. But before we get to that interview, I thought that the storm would give me a good opportunity to address something that sometimes comes up in a variety of contexts for bar takers as they're studying. And that is this whole question of when the outside world, whether it's the physical world or the political world or whatever it might be, when it intrudes on you and seems to get in the way of your studies. In the midst of the hurricane over the last few days, I've actually gotten several emails and messages from students saying, well, what do I do? It threw off my schedule. I can't study torts today, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. I think that common sense really has to prevail here. There are priorities in life, and things like hurricanes clearly take priority over the bar exam. Family matters take priority over the bar exam in many situations. The events at work may take priority. And when those things happen, it's okay. I think you have to be willing to be flexible, not rigid. And I think you have to be willing to just sort of go with the circumstances that you face. And if it means that for a few days or a week or so, you are unable to do the kind of studying that you want to do or feel that you need to do, it's all right. Certainly if you're in a course like ours that's home study, there's enormous flexibility to be able to go back and pick up those extra hours at different points along the way. And as we're talking today, thinking about the February 2017 exam or the July 2017 exam, there's plenty of time to make up any lost time right now. Now, I recognize that for a lot of people, they're just getting underway and just starting to kind of get into the rhythm and the form of their studies. And so it's probably even more frustrating when you're just beginning to get some traction and then you've got to stop, and it may be a few days or a week or longer until you can get back to it. But here's the thing I've learned about this. Just do a little bit at a time. If you can find a way to put in even an hour of study every couple of days during these difficult interim periods, it will keep you at least connected to that world. Look, if all you do is listen to this podcast today, that's a good thing. That keeps you connected and thinking about this, and you'll have plenty of time. I think the bigger danger is for people who are planning and taking a 6 or 7 week cram course, and then something happens during that period of time. Pretty hard to recover from that. And so to those of you that are in our course or doing home study, I think you've made really the smarter study decision simply because you're going to have the flexibility to deal with all the things that come up. And prior to the February exams, we've always got all of the holidays. I mean, from Halloween right on through New Year's, there's a lot going on over the next 90 days, just socially and in the world. And it's all right to be part of those things. You do not need to closet yourself off or go away for a long time and not do anything. And so I really want to encourage you to be part of that experience and part of that world and do the things you've got to do. And if you've got questions about how that fits into your course with us, don't hesitate to contact me. Now, I want to also invite all of you who are listening today, if you're not in our course right now, I want to invite you to join me this Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, that's 12 noon Pacific time, for a free masterclass. It's called How to Make the Next Bar Exam Your Last Bar Exam. And this is a 90-minute look. We're going to go through the 4 steps that passing bar takers have to follow in order to be successful. It's built on my 20-plus years of teaching bar students all around the world, and it's material that you're going to find very helpful, I think, and very useful as you begin your studies. Really love to have you join me. It's completely free, but you do need to register for your seat, and you can do that in one of a couple of ways. you can go to our website at celebrationbarreview.com, and you'll see a button there. Just click on that and register. You can also text your registration to us by texting the phrase "Next Bar Exam" to 33444. Again, text the phrase "Next Bar Exam" to 33444. We'll get you registered there. And if for some reason Thursday doesn't work out for you, that's not a good time, you'll see on our webpage another button that allows you to schedule your own showing of the master class. And again, free, same material, same offer. So you've got a couple of different choices there. So I hope that's helpful. Now, in today's Hangout, we're going to be talking with a student who had to take the Florida bar several times, and here's the worst part. She failed by just a point or 2 points and was so agonizingly close. And really the challenge for Kelly was, how do you get over the top? How do you find those final couple of points? And whether you're in Florida or not, it's really a universal challenge for bar takers, and particularly repeat bar takers. And I think you're going to find Kelly's story really inspiring. A lot of you have contacted me and said, I love these Hangouts, but are there more of them? Could I hear more of them? And the answer is yes. We'll be doing these Hangouts as part of our podcast series because we've got lots of great stories to share with you in the upcoming weeks. But if you'd like to go back and check the older ones we've done, you can do that on our podcast page at celebrationbarreview.com. You'll see a link at the top of the page to podcasts. Or you can go to our YouTube channel and find them there. And we'll put a link in our show notes for that YouTube channel, so you can go back and check them out. I think we're up to, today it might be like episode 23, 24, something like that, of the Hangout series. So these are great case studies, and I think people find them really helpful and useful. So let's jump into today's discussion with their newest member of the Florida Bar, Kelly Perkins. Well, hey everyone, welcome to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Students. This is episode 24. I started doing these about a year ago, and I thought, well, it'd be interesting to talk to people who had been successful in taking the bar. And it's turned out to be one of the big things we really do. And frankly, for me, it's one of the most enjoyable things I get to do, because I get to have these great conversations with people that I've grown to be very fond of. And today is one of my favorite all-time students. I mean, I absolutely think the world of our guest today. And I'm so excited for her because we're going to be talking to the newest member of the Florida Bar Exam. The results just came out yesterday. And so I want to introduce everybody to Kelly Perkins. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm great, but I'm betting you're way better.
I'm very good. Yes, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got your results yesterday.
Yes.
And you sent me this great picture, which somehow I'm going to figure out to get into this episode. But can you just describe the picture, which I will somehow put in for people to see?
Sure. There's a little company in my parents' hometown of Niceville, Florida, that does little yard grams. And so they come to your house at 6 a.m. and they put up all of these little fun things, and they have a congratulations sign, and it's all good. It's very fun. So you wake up in the morning, you go outside, and there's this great congratulations, you did it sign, and it was wonderful. Yeah.
Awesome. What a great feeling. And as our audience will discover in our conversation today, there's a real poignancy to all of this for you, and a great story. And I'd love to just sort of go back and tell our audience a little bit about how it was that you came to be taking the Florida bar in the first place, way back when.
Okay. So, all right. So I am a Maryland licensed attorney. I was licensed in 2009. So about 2 years ago, I decided that I needed to be closer to home. My parents, specifically my dad, was having some health issues going up and down, and I just wanted to be closer. And obviously the cost of living is better down here. I was living in DC, so it's very expensive, and that's how my journey started, and that's how I found you.
Yeah. And when you started to study for the bar, you were working full-time?
Yes, I was working full-time, a licensed attorney, so full caseload, and what didn't tell anyone I was taking the exam, because I didn't want them to know kind of what was happening in my personal life with my family. And, obviously it's not a great job tactic to tell people that you're taking a bar out of state, because then they think you're leaving. So it was a secret for most of the time, which made it a little difficult, but that's where I started.
Yeah. And when you began your studies, tell us a little bit about how you approached the studies the first time through. What was that like?
Okay, so the first time through, I was just really excited. I had this new plan to move, and I had found your program, and I started late. I started in maybe November around Thanksgiving and just really jumped in. I was a little overconfident about the MBE because I did so well on it like 6 years, 7 years before. So I didn't spend too much time, and I focused on the Florida differences, and just went from there, and didn't do very well did almost well enough on the Florida section to pass, but didn't do very well at all on the MBE, not surprisingly, since I wasn't able to put that much effort into it.
What was different about studying for the bar as a practicing attorney than studying coming out of law school? Because that's a question I get a lot from people as well. I took the bar and I passed out of school, so it should be about the same thing.
Yeah. Everything is different. Everything is different about working full-time and having the time off right after law school to study full-time. I mean, I remember when I first came out of law school, it was my job. I went and did the class in the morning and came home and did more in the afternoon and then went to sleep and did it all again every single day for 6-7 weeks, however much it was. And this time, you start your day out with a 7-hour, 8-hour day at work, which is your first ethical obligation, is that 7-8 hour day at work, and then trying to find time after work when you're exhausted to put in 2 or 3 hours of time and have a personal life and do self-care. So that was really hard for me. And the scheduling of it was ridiculously hard. And the energy part of it was harder because, I'm not old, but I'm older now than I was and not definitely as prone to late nights or all-nighters or anything like that. So that was very different for me. And my weekends were just gone. I mean, I was at the library every weekend. They knew who I was. I had my own study room and, they just let me do it. But the main difference for me was the time allocation and like, how am I going to have the energy or the time to do this and do my full-time job without anyone knowing that there's anything that I'm doing differently.
Yeah, it's a real balancing act, a juggling act. And I think one of the key takeaways is having enough time to study. Often, as we're recording today, results have just come out, and there are people who are going to say, well, I'm going to take the exam in February, but I'll wait till, November to start or December to start. Yeah, not a good plan.
Not when you're working full time. I mean, I think that if you're doing it right after school, sure, but not if you're working full time. At least if you're a full time practicing attorney, that I just don't know how, unless you're a complete genius, then I don't know how you're going to be able to do that. But I think most people that are taking it, that are working full time, I was lucky in a sense. I mean, I'm not trying to juggle, a marriage or kids or anything like that. So this was just me on, my own trying to figure this stuff out. And it was still very difficult. So I have my hat off to anyone who is doing it full time with kids, with marriage, with elderly parents to take care of. It's very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you failed the bar exam the first time.
Yeah.
Which is not easy to digest or
No.
comprehend.
No.
Talk a little bit about your reaction, your emotions, what you decided to do at that point.
So after the first time, I mean, once I saw the point spread, I think I only missed the Florida section by a couple of points. But like I said, I missed the MBE by quite a few. And I just told myself, well, I need to study more. I need to do the personal mentoring, which I signed up for. So the level above just the self-study, and to start earlier. So I did all those things and I contacted you and you were like, okay, well, you're really close and, we'll get you there. But the thing that I always remember about the February bar is that there was a domestic essay first. And that's the one that I didn't do well on. The other two that were much harder, I did okay because I was using my attorney skills of like, how do I figure this out? And for the domestic one, I was just all over the place. And I just keep remembering that. But so I told myself on the second exam that wasn't going to happen again. And I wouldn't have to try to dig so hard because I would know the law more the second time around. And I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, I think one of the things, for those of you that aren't familiar with the Florida exam, one of the interesting things that's happened over the last couple of years is that the examiners have basically gone crazy. And that's not going to win any fans, I suppose. But they've started using and testing subjects that were never testable on the essay format before. So you could prep till the cows came home, and it didn't matter because they were asking questions that they had never asked before. So there was no way to really anticipate that. So the writing style that we teach was built not on memorization, but on making arguments, right? On using what you had
Right.
learned to do as an attorney. And that made a difference for you, right?
It did. That made a huge difference. And to me, February was the last standard exam that I saw. After that, like you said, we saw a definite change in tone from the exams to kind of surprise gotcha questions, as opposed to, at this point, a family law question would be a gimme, I think, from their perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Which is,
right.
I just don't think, after that exam, I just didn't know what to expect. And July was a big wake-up call for me, for sure.
So you passed part of the exam, right?
Yes. And I overall missed it by 2 points.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. And I know this is not, we can have this conversation now. There are people who are going to be watching and listening who have failed by a point or 2 or 3. And you may have seen some of the Hangouts I did recently. Just did one with a student who failed in Georgia by 1 point, and then the Georgia bar examiners came back and said, "Whoops, our bad. You actually passed 7 months later." But this notion of failing by such a small margin, I'd really like you to address that because I know that it was, and devastating is really almost a trivial word for your reaction to it. But I'd like you to talk about it because I know that there are a lot of people that are experiencing that, and I think your insights could be helpful.
Sure. You're just initially really shocked and angry. Obviously I had a happy side of it because I had passed the MBE. I think it was almost just by the skin too. I think I got like a 136, 137, but you think about the positive, and then you go right back into, what did I do wrong? Why didn't I get a point or two? I studied so hard. What am I doing here? But it's always harder to miss by a couple of points because you're so close. And I could tell that they had tried to give me some extra points because I had like some 0.5 and 0.25 and things like that on the last scoring. But to me, it was harder because you're so close, and that means you have to do it all over again. You know how much effort it took for you to get to this point, and to know that you're there, but you have to do everything all over again to make sure that you're back there when you take it the next time. So I don't know what else to say except for you just have to process it and move forward instead of processing it and standing still. Because I think if you stand still and you overthink it, it really becomes a block for you. And then you just keep thinking, they're never going to let me through. You take it really personally. And it's hard. It's something you have to struggle with in your next time studying because you're so angry when you start studying again. Because you think, why am I doing this again? It's so close.
Yeah, and
so,
I want to just emphasize this for people that are watching. There was a point in time after those results came out when you really were angry.
I was angry, yeah.
And you were angry at everything. Everybody, you were angry at me, you were angry at the bar examiners, you were angry at yourself, you were angry at your family, you're just angry. And we spent a fair amount of conversation really just sort of talking through that. More than about the law, because it wasn't a question of you not knowing the law. It was a question of just channeling that energy and figuring out how to do it. And then I won't say you flipped a switch. It wasn't like one day you weren't angry. But over time, you started to get more confident and more comfortable and put it in your rearview mirror. Was there anything that you did specifically, or was it just the passage of time that just sort of allowed you to move on?
I think you really, like I said, you really have to process it, right? So it took me a while to process it. And, I was more angry at myself because it was just this, it's your own personal challenge, right? You have to go through this alone. And you look at all these things in your life and you think, I want these things. And why can't I have these things without achieving this one goal? So for me, the bar exam was this huge hurdle that I had to go over to move forward in my life, to be where I was at. So to keep hitting this wall was just personally very difficult for me. So it became more than a test. Yeah. So when I started kind of looking at it just as a test and not as this huge, I don't even know how to describe it, just mountain I had to get over to get to the rest of my life, it became much more manageable. These are just regular people grading your test. This is not personal. They don't know you. They don't know they don't know your family member's sick. They don't know that you need to get home closer. They don't care. It's just a test. So if you have to kind of deconstruct it for yourself and, not make it so personal, because yes, there are things that have to wait until you pass this exam for most people that take this test, but it is just a test. So you have to tell yourself that every day and just say, there's only so many things they can test. They're not trying to trick you personally. They're just trying to see how you are under stress. And once you realize, once you get that through your head, then I think it's much easier to move forward and be successful.
Yeah. And when you went back to Tampa this last time to take the exam,
Yeah.
what was your mindset like? What was that about?
Oh man. Well, first of all, we're missing February, the infamous February exam from last time.
Okay,
so
let's talk about that. I'm sorry. Let's go back and talk about the infamous February exam. Go ahead. You're right.
So after July, I was really ready, because after missing by 2 points, I just kind of jumped right in again. I took your personal mentoring class again, and just jumped in full force. And I mean, I have this binder, and I showed you like a couple of times, and it was
a big binder. It was not a little one.
I focused completely on essays, obviously, because now the MBE was over. So, but the thing is, you do get excited when you pass the MBE, but just because you pass the MBE, it doesn't mean your studying is less, which is what I found out. Yeah. You actually have to still study everything, because they can test you on everything for the essays. So I had this huge binder full, and I had looked at past exams, and, I just... contracts, torts, property. I must have done like 50 essays. I mean, not even kidding, probably 50 essays. And, I had looked at other things, but I mostly focused on those things. And Florida Con Law, I did a bunch of essays there. Just everything that had been in the past. Family law, trusts. I mean, I think I knew trusts backwards and forwards, and was just so ready. And I got into the exam, and it was criminal. It was criminal. What was it, Jackson? It was criminal, federal
con law,
and negotiable instruments.
Negotiable instruments. Yeah, the three things that, of course, everyone thought were coming.
Right. Well, and that I'd not done any essays on. I mean,
because the examiners had never written any essays on them.
So you're just sitting there, and again thinking like, oh my God, I studied so hard. I can't believe you're just kind of going through it. And I did that at the break. So thankfully my nerves came after. Yeah. And so I dug through, and then got to the break and just almost just lost it at lunch, because I knew. I was like, this was a really tough exam. This was a, what do you even call it? A clearer. This was just like they wanted to just do a clearance, just like whoever they could get off. They were going to push off the train, right?
There was a 30% overall pass rate from that.
It was awful. And I think it was lower for out-of-state attorneys, too. So, I was battling both things. And I just remember going out at the break and just had to just put my sunglasses on and eat lunch and just think, it's okay, you're going to go into the multiple choice, which is great. And I think on that one, I got a really high score on the multiple choice, but just not enough to get over. And again, a couple of points. A couple of points. That was the most devastating loss. I mean, I couldn't even talk about it for a couple days after. I mean, just devastated, because I had worked so hard. And I just kept thinking, like, what is it? Like, why, what is it about this that I can't get to Florida? Am I not supposed to be in Florida? Like, am I supposed to be doing something else? Should I stay here? Like, what am I doing? And meanwhile, all these other medical issues are coming up down here, and I need to be here. So the February was terrible, and I'm sure it was terrible for a lot of people, but for me especially. And I just really wanted to pass and was doing excellent work. And then, you just get this curveball, and that was really hard to get up from. That was really hard to.
Yeah, and I don't want to trivialize this, but in our office, you were a couple point Kelly.
That
was like,
yes.
How could this happen again? So
there
we are.
Yes, that was a very.
Incredibly difficult. And I think a lot of people would give up at that point. A lot of people would get so frustrated, so angry, that they would just throw everything, they do 52 card pickup and just, throw stuff against the wall and give up and walk away. You didn't do that, though. You did recover from the, I mean, it took you a while, but you recovered.
About a week. A full week. Yeah. Yeah.
And you moved from Maryland down to Florida, FMLA, right? You took some FMLA time and came down, and you started to study. And one of the interesting things is I actually had to caution you to not overstudy, to not overdo, because now it was like, look, I don't, nothing is going to get past me this time. Nothing. I mean, you're a good attorney. You were not going to be surprised again. And you weren't surprised on this last exam. I mean, it was much more straightforward, I think. You shared an interesting story with me. I hope you don't mind me telling it, and you'll tell it better. But you were driving with your dad and listening to bar review lectures, right?
Yep. We had to go to Gainesville because he had an appointment in Gainesville because we live in Nowheresville, Florida. Yeah. So we had to go see a specialist in Gainesville about 4 hours away. Yeah.
And so it was a father-daughter bonding moment over courts hypotheticals, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But your whole family was really kind of getting involved in this process and in the studies and everything else that was going on. What was it like for them to go through this process when you were studying? I mean, it's one thing when you're studying away from them, but now you're home, you've moved back home, and now you're studying and trying to help out with the family and so on. What do you think the process was like for them?
I mean, I think for them, they were just as shocked as I was, and they just wanted to be supportive and not kind of intrude. Like every day it would be like my mom would get home and my dad would be like, "Don't bother her," and then my dad would come over to say hi, and my mom would be like, "Don't bother her, she's studying," and I'd just be like, "No, you guys, honestly, I need to study like less," and they're like, "Study less? Like we don't understand that." So it just became this whole thing of, trying to explain to them what the exams were, showing them what I was doing, so showing them an essay, and they were just like, how do you remember all, and going through the multiple choice questions and like, how do you do these? And so it's just about explaining it and showing them what I was actually doing all day, sitting in front of my computer like a zombie. But they were great. I mean, my parents have always been great. I'm very lucky to have the parents that I have. And I think for me, they were just on pins and needles the whole time because every single time they knew I passed, every single time. So all the times that I didn't pass, they heard it first. And I think it's very hard. And they want me down here too, obviously for, parent reasons as well. So I think it was a long journey for them as well. And they were great companions on it for sure. Right. Yeah.
So now we'll get back to July. Thanks. For
happy.
Yeah. So you go down to Tampa again in July, fourth try. And what's it like for you emotionally and mentally walking into the room to take the Florida portion?
Wow. Well, I didn't sleep the night before. I don't know if I told you that.
No.
I had taken 2, they weren't sleeping pills, but I think I had taken just some like melatonin or Benadryl or something to sleep. Woke up every hour on the hour to make sure I didn't miss it. And I had been working out. There was no reason to be stressed out. I think I was just ready. I mean, my brain was just ready to get rid of all this information. So I wouldn't call it stress, but I was just so amped up. I was like ready to just tackle this and be done with it. I don't know. I mean, it just reminded me of a trial. Waking up in the middle of the night and, writing something down that you need to do. And so that's what it felt like. And then in the morning, I panicked a little because like, how can I do this? I didn't sleep at all. I'm not putting myself in the best position. And then finally I just looked in the mirror and was just like, what's your option? Are you going to sit here and not go? Like you have to go. So I had brought, like work clothes this time. That was a difference. Like I brought.
We talked about that, didn't we? Right.
Yeah.
I wanted you to dress like an attorney, and you were like, "No, dude, where are my sweats and my?"
But it made a big difference because it was just like going. You go into the courtroom. You're nervous initially, but you dress the part. You know the information, and feeling comfortable is half the battle. So I felt very comfortable, and I just ignored people. I brought stuff with me and they had a little room that you could put stuff in. And I studied a little bit, not too much, signed in, went upstairs, protected my laptop, with my life, and just sat down. And I mean, the other thing about taking only one day is that they separate you.
Yeah.
So you know that the people that you're with just have to take that one day, and you're away from all of the other people that have to take 2 days,
Right.
which to me was really nice because you know that all of these people had a shared experience, and to me it made me less nervous. And then you just sat down, and I got the essays and just went to work. I mean, I just
you did what you've been doing in practice, right? I mean,
Yes.
it wasn't like, oh my God, I got to do something completely different today. It's what you'd been
Yeah.
doing all along. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So then there's the waiting after the exam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard to wait when you've had these experiences before.
Yeah.
But then,
But the nice part is that every time I took this exam, I got to go back and be an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a difference, right?
Yeah.
Like you come back, you sit down, and you think, okay, what do I need to do today? Because I've got clients and I've got things to do. So that helps with the wait time. I mean, obviously it goes very quickly, and then I put in my notice at my job at the middle of August, so a 30-day notice. And then I had so much to do to get ready to leave that by the time I left, it was, the weekend before yesterday.
Yeah.
So my last day at my job was September 15th.
Okay.
And I got in my car with my mom and drove down. And then the next day I woke up to these beautiful results.
Wow.
So
talk about that. 'Cause I love that moment when people find out they've actually passed. Well, tell us about that.
Okay, so I was in the process of canceling things and changing my address and all of that because you are told that the results come out in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. I had always waited until after work. So this was the first time I would be able to check early, and just kind of on a whim when I first woke up, I checked and obviously they weren't available. And then I checked again at about 9:30 in the morning and it said they're now available. And I just started kind of shaking and I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? And so I went downstairs and told my dad, I was like, should we wait for mom or should we just look at them? He's like, it's not going to change. It is what it is. And let's just look at it. So I brought my laptop downstairs and my hand was just shaking. And so I just put my hand out to him and he held my hand. And then we opened the results and I just went down the page, and I can't even tell you, for like almost every day for, I would say, since I took the test, I've been doing, my number and then pass in my head and then saying it out loud. And so just like scrolling down, I just got so nervous and I saw my number and I just looked over and it just said pass. And I just had this huge relief. I started crying. I was just so happy. My dad was crying. And then we called my mom, and she works at a hospital on base by us. And she's just screaming. She's like, I have to go outside. Ah! So she goes outside and she has a ball. And it's just, I can't explain how difficult it's been the past couple of years. Just our family's just had a lot of knocks. So, and good things too. But this was a huge win. It was a huge win. And it was just so nice to be able to, A, have a personal accomplishment, and B, share something really happy with them that they helped and supported me through. So it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Yeah.
That's special. That's really
Yeah.
special. Yeah, I'm so proud
I'm getting to you. I'm getting to you.
Yeah,
I
you
can
are.
see.
Yeah, you are. You are. Yeah. And for those of you watching, that doesn't happen. So, I am really proud of you. And I'm proud of you for the accomplishment, but I'm really proud of you for your determination to hang in there and to not give up. And I want the people in this audience to know this, because I know, I got some emails and notes and calls yesterday from people who are so discouraged. It is so tough. The overall pass rate in Florida this week, 47%. It's horrible. And it is really, really difficult. And anybody that thinks, well, I'm just going to stroll in and take the bar and pass, they're delusional, because so many people work so hard. But I know that one of the greatest problems is discouragement, that it just, sometimes you just have to grind your way through it. I mean, you did, there was no reason to think you were going to have to do that initially, but that's what it took. You had to grind your way through, get one section. For the people out there who are thinking, oh my God, I got to grind through it, how's it feel to you today?
I mean, you're bumped and bruised and squeezed, and it's a very emotional, but it's worth it. I mean, just keep going. You can do this. It's just a test.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a test. And when you start beating yourself up and telling yourself, there's just no way I can get through this, I've tried so many times. I've got too many obligations. I mean, you can do this. It just takes more time. And, I don't, lucky is not the right word, but it just happened in my personal life that I was able to take some time off and help my family and study in the little, places where I could. And I was able to get through, but just don't give up. You can definitely do this. And you have to get over the block. I mean, every day you have to tell yourself, you're just focusing on this one thing. This is just a test. I mean, it's a very important test. It's meaningful. I mean, you can't really enjoy, when you're coming out of school, you can't really enjoy your graduation from law school until you pass this test. You can't move here if you want to practice generally until you pass this test. I mean, there's a lot weighing on it, so I get it, but you can do it. I just don't give up. I mean, to me, I just was raised not to quit. I played sports. You just don't quit. And I was not going to let this get the better of me. There's just no way. It's pieces of paper. Like, there's no way that I was going to let it stop me. Yeah. So, awesome. Just stick with it. And if anyone wants to reach out, they're more than welcome to reach out. I'd love to talk to people about this more if they need.
Yeah, and I know you're on our private Facebook group, and
I'm trying. Yeah. I need to get back
people.
on.
Yeah, support
because
people.
I had to use a secret. That was the other thing too. I had to use a different account. I had to make up a whole new account.
Right, you had an alias and everything. It was very cool. Well, I know when people are thinking about taking the bar and looking at bar review courses, they go through this long process of trying to figure out, should they go with the established course, the big box courses, or something else. And I'm not fishing for compliments here, but I would like to get a sense of why you chose to go the route you did versus the traditional sort of, repeat the course probably that you took coming out of law school.
Well, there was two reasons. So I had heard about your law review through someone I went to law school with, and she highly recommended your class. And she was the same as me. I mean, she had been out of school for a little bit and was working full time. So her opinion meant a lot to me. Mm-hmm. So first it was referral, and then how much time I had. I mean, I didn't have time to go do. Forget how much they charge nowadays, but I just didn't have time to go and do those classes like I had done right after law school. And I really just liked the self-study part of it. Now, it was difficult for me at first, but once I joined the Facebook group, it became a lot easier for me because I'm more of like I said, a team-based, community-based type person. Right. So that really helped. And to kind of send the Facebook messages every day to people, they're like, how are you doing? And there's like, oh my God, Will's, right? And just kind of that shared experience was really helpful. So I think the Facebook group was fantastic. And I loved all of the inspirational videos I could watch and the daily videos I could watch. And because it takes you out of it, it gives you some perspective. I think when you do the big box reviews, you don't get that. I mean, it's just all the bar exam all day long. And if you don't pass this, then, you've just wasted all this money and time and all of this. But, you would always kind of have a different perspective on how things were going. And you had the Hangout videos that I could watch if I got down. I mean, I remember watching that one with that man whose daughter had just passed away and thinking like, you know what, like that's strength, and he's really determined. And that gave me inspiration to do what I needed to do.
Yeah.
So,
and Kelly, I got to tell you, this video will inspire a lot of people. This will give a lot of strength to a lot of people. And I always say this when somebody's willing to come on and do these. I appreciate so much your transparency, your willingness to acknowledge, because it's easy to go, I don't really want to talk about all that stuff because it was hard stuff and it was discouraging. But you have personified what I think it means to be a kinder, gentler member of the bar, to be somebody who really holds themselves out, appropriately and well. And it's an honor to have been on this part of the journey with you. I know it's been a struggle. Absolutely. But one of the big wins for us yesterday was seeing your name on the pass list. And
so great.
Everybody here, Sarah, Megan, all of us, we were like, yes. So it was a great, it was a great opportunity and great thing. I really appreciate you spending the time and being part of the Hangout. Love your participation in the Facebook group, and look forward to that as we go forward. And I just wish you all the best. I hope that things go well with your dad and with family, and that you enjoy being out. Frankly, you're out in that most beautiful beach in the whole world out there in the Gulf. So my former stomping grounds. Really, folks, he lives in a place called Niceville. That's really what it's called. And
it's true.
It's true. But a nice person from Niceville. And we're just really pleased and proud to have you as a member of the Florida Bar and an alum of our course. So thanks so much today. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. We love having you participate and be part of this Hangout series. And Kelly, we wish you all the best. So we're going to sign off for now. Thanks, everybody, for being with us today. Well, that's our episode for today. Thanks so much for joining me and for being part of the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. Now, if you'd like to catch up on prior episodes or check out the show notes, you can do that by going to our webpage at celebrationbarreview.com. Click on the link at the top of the page for podcasts, and there you'll find all of our previous episodes as well as the show notes. You can also subscribe to the podcast from that site, or you can go to iTunes and subscribe there. Just type in the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers, and you can subscribe and be part of the podcast series. And we would love to have you do that. While you're on the iTunes site, we would also really appreciate you giving us a quick, honest rating and review. That feedback is really useful to me as I prepare these episodes. It only takes about 30 seconds, so I hope you'll do that. Just type in the name of the podcast and give us your rating and review. Again, if you've got any questions or you'd like to know anything else about Celebration Bar Review or the courses that we offer, visit our website, or I invite you to contact us. My email is jackson@celebrationbarreview.com, and I look forward to hearing from you and to seeing you along the extra mile very shortly. See you on the pass list. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at www.celebrationbarreview.com.